Hey guys, it's Simone, and it's been a while. How have you been? I wanted to come in before the episode to actually give some updates. Right now, as I'm recording this little PSA, it's May 8th, and I usually don't give dates of when I record things, but this is just important for a couple of reasons. So, the episodes, and I say episodes because before Nafis went off to do Ramadan, we actually pre-recorded 2 episodes to put out while she was gone. But just mentally, I needed to take a break. A lot of changes were happening at my job. Obviously, things that are still happening on in the world, I wanted to put my focus on. And yeah, just, oh God, so much is happening that I just could not even focus on this podcast. So that's what I'm putting out right now. And I'm putting the same PSA for both episodes. So we recorded these back in March, I believe, early beginning of March. And I don't think we had talked about anything pop culture wise that was happening around that time. But just in case we did, just know that's because we recorded it around the time it was happening. So the first reason that I am letting you guys know that I'm recording this on May 8th and I'm going to publish both of these on May 9th is because, one, I had actually mentioned at the end of the Miss Granny episode that my birthday was going to be coming up soon. And from the day I'm recording, it'll be next Tuesday, so on May 14th. And I will be 27. That sounds like a very odd number to say because mentally, I still feel honestly, I'm not going to lie. I think because I will blame the pandemic on here, I feel like I'm trapped at the age when the pandemic happened. So at 23, that's where I mentally feel like it's still between sometimes feeling like 16 and then sometimes feeling like I'm stuck at 23. But here I am. If you listen to this after May 14th at 27, it's strange, it's odd. I'm pretty sure I have a weird relationship with my birthday that I don't really want to get into. It's I lead up to it, and then when it actually happens, just oh, another day. But I'm here, and I'm thankful to still be here and still pushing through, again, this hellish world that is on fire. I know that shouldn't sound as depressing as I just made it, because I should be more happy about my birthday than I am, but I'm just letting y'all know the truth. Another reason why I'm letting you know when I'm recording this is because we are 214 days into the genocide of the Palestinian people over in the occupation known as Israel. And since many of us, and I'm sure a lot of us that are listening from the United States as well, did not wake up or even was aware of the atrocities that were happening over there, I think another reason, especially this year, I'm kind of not really excited about my birthday, even though I cannot control events that happen. But I had learned that the occupation Israel was officially formed on May 14th. So on May 14th, it'll also be the 76th year since Palestinians were kicked out of their home country. So right now, all eyes really need to be on Rafah, where at first they designated that the safe zone for the Palestinians and trapped about 1 million people there. But now they're being bombed, which should we be surprised? No. I believe I've also been hearing reports that they have cut off the border. They're also charging them an astronomical amount of money, almost $10,000 per person, I believe, just to evacuate. So I'm going to put as many links as I can for resources to still help people, whether if I can find personal families, GoFundMes, the organizations. I know if you are a BTS Army for Palestine, they have a whole, one of those cards you probably saw around, those digital cards for links to donations, as well as donating eSIMs, so Palestinians still have a way to communicate to the outside world. And not only just Palestine, we still need to keep our eyes on Sudan with the war that they've been going through for about a year now, as well as the Congo. I'm also going to put the link for a TikToker who I'm mutuals with. She's a Congolese woman by the name of Mary Laura Cato, and she has started basically a campaign to try to get donations to donate to a bunch of organizations that she is in contact with. And I know one of them is for like organizations in the Congo and many others. So I'll put that in the description as well. And yeah, I just really wanted to come in the beginning of both these episodes because it's been a while to share this information as well as the links where you can go to help. But if anything, especially if you don't have the funds, just continue what we've been doing. Liking videos on TikTok, sharing them, reposting them. If you come across GoFundMe's, just sharing them out, and hopefully a person who cares about humanity and has the funds to help out can donate. If you are able to protest, please continue to protest to show them that we will not be silent about these causes, that they cannot hide these causes from us anymore. I am so proud of everybody that is currently on a college campus and what you guys are doing all over the world. Like, just, I'm proud of y'all. Y'all are actually giving me some type of hope about humanity in general. Please stay safe. If there's anyone that live near these campuses that are able to help the students out, please do so. But like, just everyone in general, be safe if you are doing some type of like actual physical protest that's not just online. So yeah. So I don't really know what else to say. But I would like to believe at least the majority of people that listen to us are at least on some type of the same moral compass as we are. So just make sure you keep your eyes on what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Sudan, in the Congo. And honestly, just make sure you're staying up to date and aware of what's happening in your own backyard, especially if you live in the United States. A lot of shit is happening. They're trying to pass a lot of laws to suppress us and make sure we're not educated enough to understand the horrors that are happening to us. So just make sure you're alert, you're aware, you're doing whatever you can to educate yourself, take care of yourself, and not lose your humanity or empathy for other people that are not in your immediate circle. And remember, none of us are free until all oppressed people are free.
Welcome back to I Was Thinking. I am Nafis.
And I'm Simone.
Yeah, so we're back for another movie review.
I definitely do this a lot better than you. It's fine. It's fine.
I feel like you do intros more than I do, though. So.
Maybe. It's okay. We'll get this. We're only almost 4 years into doing this.
Yeah. Which movie are we reviewing today?
So we are doing a Korean movie today, also found on Netflix, and it is called Miss Granny. I am in charge of this one, so I will be taking the lead of describing the movie, talking about the movie, things of that nature. I'm doing better, so I'm putting the disclaimer at the beginning. We talk about the whole movie, so there are going to be spoilers. So if you haven't seen this, if you can find a way to watch Miss Granny, stop it now and go watch it. If you don't care about spoilers, or if you've seen this movie before, enjoy.
Is it only offered on Netflix?
I don't know. So
let's assume so.
Sure. But if you can find a way to find it off of there, because, fuck capitalism, then that's fine too. But yes. Also, another disclaimer. Apologize for any names, places, mostly names that I may mispronounce because they're not in a language I normally speak. Nafis is very encouraging to me, but I still don't feel like I'm getting any better with my Korean language, but we'll see. So yes, I'm trying my best, guys. Trying my best.
You got this.
How are you able to watch the movie? You just seen it before? That's why you remember it? Or?
No, I saw it while I still had Netflix.
Okay.
But in any case, how are you today?
Still same old, just working.
Woo-hoo.
Trying to make sure I don't stay in my house as often since I work from home now. So.
Oh, that's right. You started that now. That's good.
Yeah. So, I still wish I didn't have to answer the phone, but I'll still take it because I don't have to worry about going somewhere.
Right.
Yeah. So I just got to make sure I'm at my computer and log in on time. That's actually where I'm recording now. My little setup on my desk that I have in here. So yeah. Okay. So far it's not been bad. And, now I'm full time. So hopefully making a little bit extra money and hopefully can find ways to save. But in this economy, it's hard.
Yeah.
Got to take what I can get.
I went to Publix the other day. I feel like I rant about this every time we talk. I went to Publix the other day and I bought probably 6 to 10 things. Mind you, 6 to 10 things. And the bill was $70. What?
I believe it because there's been times Publix is already expensive as it is, but it's just it's just gotten even more ridiculous. I believe it.
And this was all the items were buy one, get one, mind you. So it's what am I don't know.
That's I went to CVS, and of course I needed more vitamins, so I got some vitamins. I have to be careful on my vitamins because when I went to my doctor, I guess my B12 was elevated, and I looked at all my vitamins. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much of them had B12. And plus too, since, I work out, I looked at my pre-workout and it has B12. So I was like, oh, I gotta calm it down now.
Yeah.
So now I only take elderberry, those the gummy type, because they're still good in zinc, vitamin D, and there's no B12 in it, which I'm already getting from my pre-workout. But anyway, I went to CVS to buy that. And then, I was having a craving. So I treated myself to some ice cream and I forgot what else I got, but literally it was only 4 items and it all came out to about $50. And it was just based off the vitamins because the vitamins were $28.
Yeah. It was probably a 30-day supply or so, right?
Yeah, I try to, if I'm going to buy vitamins, I try to get as much as I can because that shit can get expensive. But I'm just saying.
Do you have a Costco or Sam's Club membership with your dad?
My dad has one. I used to have one under his plan, but because I barely went, my membership myself, we just canceled and he just goes. So if I go, it's because I'm going with him, but I can't go without him.
Because I was going to say, they have bulk vitamins, so you get more for your money.
Yeah, I know. And then now in my area, they're actually also building a Costco. So we're not only going to have a Sam's, we're also going to have a Costco. So that's just a whole thing. Interesting.
Costco is a whole cult, but
what isn't a cult nowadays? Anyway, Let's get on to the movie that's not about a cult. Although I wonder if we should find some about cults. I'll take note of that.
I'm sure there is something.
I'm sure there is. So yes, we are talking about the Korean movie Miss Granny, which is the English title. The Korean title is Susonghan Kunyon, which actually literally translates to suspicious woman. So I'm not sure where they get Miss Granny from suspicious woman, but sure.
It's just a cuter version,
I guess, and maybe easier to understand for English speakers. Kind of confusing on the original release date. It came out in 2014. I'm assuming the date I wrote down, which is January 22nd, 2014, is the Korean release date. Because some of them were giving me February. Maybe that was the English release date. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Then the director of this movie, his name is Hwang Dong-hyuk. So the cast, and I tried just to honestly write down the cast members that we're going to see a majority of the time are the ones who are important. So we have Woo Mal-soon, who is our main character, and she is played by Namoon-hee? Namoon-hee. Yeah. We also have the character Udori, who is the main character, but like her younger form. And of course, we'll get into that when we talk about the movie. And she is played by Shim Eun Kyung. Next, we have Han Song Woo. At first, I put scouting agent, but he's technically like a music producer. And I think in the movie, he specifically only works for Mnet and like M Countdown. But he's like the music producer. But I also said scouting agent because he helps like look for the talent to put on the show M Countdown, which I'm sure if we have our K-pop fans listening is a real thing. And he is played by Lee Jin Wook. Then he is really only referred to in the whole movie as Mr. Park, or like in Korean, Pak Shi. And I wrote down he's friends with our main character, Woo Mal-soon. I know it kind of goes a little bit deeper than that because like they are friends, but I feel like at the beginning he was explaining how like his family took her in. So something along those lines, but they basically kind of grew up together, and he is played by Park In Hwan. Then we have Woo Hyun Chol, which I get confused on his name because he is the son of Woo Mal-soon, but sometimes she calls him Bio Chol. I'm assuming that's just a nickname, but you're gonna hear her call him Bio Chol. But when I was looking up like their actual characters' names, he was coming up as Hyun Chol. But he is the son of our main character, and he is played by Song Dong-il. Then we have Aja, who is the wife of Hyun Chol and also Woo Mal-soon's daughter-in-law, and she is played by Hwang Jong-min. And then we have Jiha, or what's their name? Is it Bon Jiha? I didn't write down his last name. I apologize. But Jiha, who is the grandson, he is played by Jong Jin Young. And then we have Hana, who is the granddaughter, played by Kim Sul Gi. So they're the grandchildren of Woo Mal-soon and, of course, her son's children.
Okay.
So the little synapse I got from Asian Wiki is Woo Mal-soon is a 74-year-old widow who realizes she is a burden to her family. While roaming around the streets, she comes across a photo studio and dresses up for like a self-portrait. When she walks out, she mysteriously regains her physical appearance of, the age of 20. Making the most out of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, she changes her name to Udori and decides to enjoy the best out of her youth. So that's basically the whole premise of the movie.
Okay.
Any thoughts, questions, concerns so far, Nafis?
Nope.
All right, so let's break it down. So at the beginning, it's kind of like a voiceover of Woo Mal-soon, and she's basically kind of like describing men's tendencies and like how men treat women, and she uses like the analogy of like sports balls, and I did write everything she said because I just thought it was interesting. So at first she said teens are like a basketball. Men reach with all their might to grab the ball high in the air. A woman in her 20s is like a rugby ball. So men will fight over the ball like dogs after prey, and it's the only time they put their necks out on the line for a woman. Women in their 30s are like a table tennis ball. The amount of men chasing quickly dwindles, but there's still enough to like focus on the ball. Middle-aged women are like golf balls where there's only one man per ball and he hits it as far away as he can. And then when she reaches passes all those ages, so like probably 60 and above, she is treated like a dodgeball.
Oh,
So that is nice to know.
that's kind of funny.
It's funny, but it's also like sad, but it's also kind of true, especially like their attention span. So I just thought it was interesting and I needed to like write it down. Also just shows like the patriarchy of like societal differences between men and women. So, But then after all that in the introduction, we go into the scene of like a college classroom where they're discussing ageism, and the professor asks his students, what is the first bias or prejudice the students think when they think about elderly people and why? And the answers were all interesting. And some of them were talking about the first thing that comes to their mind was like wrinkles and dark spots, how they smell, how slow they are, how shameless they are, I guess, like in their speech. And then like they're at the age where they're not afraid to say anything anymore. Yeah. And then there's one student, you can tell she's probably like the pretty popular girl in the college, where she's like, when she reaches the age of 30, she would kill herself because she doesn't see the point of living past 30, which is very sad because 30 is still hella young.
Yeah, I felt some type of way when I heard that. I'm like,
I was thinking of you because I'm like, now how is Nafis gonna feel when she hears that as someone who's in her 30s?
I was like, I'm already age conscious, and now you're saying this, like, ma'am.
And I say that a lot, like when I talk about K-pop too, because you see it in the way they treat idols as well.
Yeah,
like,
as they get older.
When they honestly past 25, if we're gonna be realistic, but especially 30 is like they already do treat them like they're dead. They don't have a spot in the career anymore.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a global thing.
Especially since now that we have like more fourth generation K-pop groups, it's like it's really easy to weed the older ones out.
Yeah. And they're only getting younger. It's funny, kind of sidetracking, because I was going back to like listen to old episodes so I can try to put things on our social media and actually keep up with that. And I had talked about that, I guess, really early on when we were so young, where I was like, yeah, I'm worried about like the K-pop groups coming up because they're all like under 16. So like I really need to vet out if I want to get into a group, like how old are you?
Yeah.
But that goes into another topic that I've talked about before. So after we get the scene from that young girl, we actually go ahead and switch over to our main character, Mal-soon, who is working, I can consider it like a cafe, because I don't know what else to call it.
It's a cute cafe.
Yeah, and it's like mostly catered to the elderly in the area. So she's talking about...
For the elderly, by the elderly.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's pretty good. We need more places like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they have, a place to go and like colleagues to hang out with instead of just sticking them in nursing homes. So
is that cafe like an independent cafe, or was that part of like a home, a nursing home?
I actually don't know. I know they were funded by something. I could have sworn I heard them say it was funded by one of the schools in the area, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't actually remember or know for sure.
Okay.
Yes, but she actually works at that cafe and she's talking to Mr. Park and basically kind of saying the same thing. The young girl was talking about how when she was younger, she didn't want to grow old. She was terrified of growing old and she thought she was going to stay young forever until she got pregnant and then all of a sudden became a widow, which we'll discuss a little bit later. And then she also gets into a fight with someone we find out is like her arch rival and a regular at the cafe. And her name is Okja, and she's always flirting with Mr. Park and kind of being rude to Mal-soon because of Korean culture and like the age thing, even though they're both like elderly women. She's like younger she's 69 and Mal-soon is 74. So they get into a fight because she feels like she's being disrespectful. And when I say fight, it's not just like catty yelling at each other. They actually get into like a physical brawl.
Yeah.
Which I was like, do these things actually happen in Korea? Or is it just like the drama in movies? Because they be fighting a lot.
Probably dramatized.
It probably is. And then we also find out that Mal-soon lives with the family. So she lives with her son and his family, wife and 2 children that I talked about earlier, Jiha and Hana. And Mal-soon like spoils her son. Like when I say spoil, I mean spoil. And she spoils the grandson as well. We don't really see her do that to her granddaughter. Again, I think that's like a cultural thing and like how the men are. But she definitely spoils her grandson. And she also stresses the mother, Aja, out like a lot because she kind of feels like she's not doing her job as like a wife or a mother to really take care of them. You see them bicker a little bit of like Jiha and like his singing career, quote unquote, and how his mother really wants him to get a job. But then, which is, I did think was surprising how supportive Umasun was in like Gia's passion for singing and like being in a band, talking about like how you can make money off of that nowadays. So it's not like, you know, one of those throwaway careers that also could just go into what we find out later, like her own love for singing and music. But she also, you know, criticizes the way Aja cooks, cleans, and like to the point where like she doesn't even think she's sending her husband off properly, like when he goes off to work. So, and then in the midst of all that, we also like cut to a quick scene where we meet Sungwoo, who is the music producer at the station Mnet for M Countdown. And they're actually scouting out talent. I'm not sure if this is the weekly like performances they have on M Countdown that they're doing, or this is for a special. I think this is for a special. And basically he's not impressed with like any of the musicians that he's seeing, and is like, I don't want to call her his assistant, but she's kind of like a production assistant, does like joke about how he's never going to be satisfied because he's looking for someone with soul. And I put that in question marks because I'm going to come back to that because I have something to rant about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Well, warning. But yes, it just seems like none of the performers there satisfies him in a way that he's looking for as like a true artist.
Okay.
So since we've been introduced like musically in the movie, we find out about Gia's band, which is a metal band named after him, Bon Jiha, like it's his literal name. Wasn't expecting a metal band when they show what type of band he was in. I put impersonating Kiss to me, especially with like the makeup and stuff. And then like their lead singer is just absolutely horrible. She can't sing. I'm sorry, not really sorry. She can't hold a tune.
Yeah.
She said it was based off of her, I guess, partying the night before, and she's probably still like dealing with the hangover. But I don't know. It just seems like she can't sing, especially since they're performing in a place where there's only like 10 people and only one person really is paying attention to them. But then after that horrible performance, they all got into a fight and she quits.
I was shocked when I saw that. Was their brand.
It threw me off.
I was like, Korea has that? I didn't know they had punk rock bands.
I mean, they have all types of music genres. We just only know about like the K-pop, especially now because that one, I guess, is more marketable on a global standpoint. But yeah, I mean, they pretty much have everything. I mean, I'll say this now, but there is a band later on that I guess is like a real band there that's very popular. That we get like a, I guess, guest appearance from. Not for very long. They're only shown for like maybe 2 minutes, if even. But yeah, it's a thing there. It's also interesting to me as well because it shows the difference between like movies and dramas, because like I've noticed in like dramas, they don't really show that type of like side of Korea as well, as far as like the punk rock type aesthetic, or even just like the tattoos. If you've ever noticed, like
I have,
Korean dramas, I'm sure the ones they even show on TV don't really show things like tattoos. They do show like the smoking and obviously the drinking. That's part of the culture. But yeah.
If they do show tattoos, though, it's more along the lines like this person's either in a gang or they're just like strayed, like they're stray, caught up in other things.
Yeah. But in movies, they just show it as being normal, which is what it should be.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, the difference of portrayals of Korea as someone who started watching their media from like TV dramas to movies. I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was interesting. Where was I? So so Masoon's daughter-in-law, Aja, you can kind of see it throughout the beginning, but you can tell she's under a lot of stress, and it gets to a point where like it gets so bad that she ends up in the hospital. And I think they say she has like a heart disease, so it was kind of like a mild heart attack, which I'm not sure is common at her age because she seemed pretty young to be getting a heart attack. She seemed to be like in her 40s to me.
Yeah.
I feel like that's young to get a heart attack, right?
It's quite common, actually.
Is it?
I think so. Mid-40s and above, it gets more common.
Maybe that's just me then. But yeah, she ends up in the hospital, and then they kind of come to the conclusion that her stress is related to Malsoon in a way, just the way she, berates her and things of that nature. And then Mal-soon ends up overhearing her son and the grandchildren talking about potentially putting her like in a nursing home, which I also didn't know nursing homes were a thing in Korea. I thought they just either lived on their own or lived with the family. So that was new to me.
But mind you, the daughter-in-law, she's not like an evil character.
No.
Because at first I thought they would probably portray her as that because they were like always bickering. But like her concerns though actually kind of makes sense in a way.
Yeah. Because I think the kids, because I was confused about their age at first. I didn't find out their age till the end. They're in their early 20s, and I don't think they're going to school. So, I mean, I understand her concern of like wanting him to also get a job and try to maybe do this as a side hustle, because I don't think she was really downplaying his being in a band or doing music in general. I think she was just like, hey,
she just wanted him to have a job.
Yeah. Which is, I think, is a normal parent concern.
Exactly.
Make sure he's still able to somewhat survive and not always depend on the parents. Yeah. The story mostly focuses on Gia. We don't really see much about Anna. So, but yeah. And then there was also, so that was kind of one strike to like Mal-soon's ego. And then there was another thing that happened when she was working. There was kind of like a scuffle at the cafe when a woman shows up and kind of like faces Mal-soon about her past. So we kind of get a small glimpse about it. And she accuses Mal-soon of like ruining her family business, saying that like they took her in when her and her son were, on the streets and her son was sick at the time. They let her work at the restaurant. She ended up like, I guess, stealing their family recipe and opening a shop right next to them. So the woman seemed very hurt by that because, again, more attacking. I was so surprised about all the physical violence I was seeing in this movie. But yeah, we'll get a little bit more into her past, but it kind of does show in a way because when she's on the floor, she opens up about like how her son at the time wasn't even able to drink like milk. That's how sick he was. So she did what she could to survive. So we kind of see a little bit why she's so protective and like spoiling of her son, which makes sense. And then when she's on her way home after that incident, while she's waiting for the bus to come, she actually looks up across the street and sees like a photo shop there and decides to go in to kind of just like have her picture be taken. I forgot what the reason why she went in there to have her picture taken.
Her death picture.
Was it for her funeral picture?
Yeah, her funeral picture.
Okay. I just thought she did it like on a whim. I didn't know if she was like, oh, let me go ahead. Life's short. Go take the funeral picture. And she did that before she was supposed to meet up with Gia and his friends because he ended up calling her when she was at the bus stop to see if she could pay dinner for them. Not if she wanted to go get dinner with them, if she can buy them dinner. Yeah. Remember, there's a difference.
Yeah.
So just to let you know. And then so while she's in there, the photographer, he's a nice older man, starts talking to her. Then she talks about like her past, how beautiful she was, how she was a great singer. And then like basically all these things she feels like she missed in her youth because she had a child so young. So then before she got her picture taken, the photographer promised to make her literally 50 years younger. And of course, we all just think like it just from the picture, but no, he meant it literally.
Quite literally.
So after the picture was taken and she leaves, she sees the bus, leaving and she chases it down, which should have been the first indication that something, happened because she's able to catch up with the bus, which she wouldn't have been able to do in her original 74-year-old woman body. But yeah, so she gets on it and then like there's these weird guys that like see her and kind of were making fun of the way she was dressed like an old woman. But then one of them goes up and like tries to flirt with her. And then after their little like scuffle, through the reflection of his sunglasses, she noticed, she's like, oh, wow, what is wrong with me? Like, this isn't me. Why do I look like my 20-year-old self?
Yeah.
And then also just notice throughout the movie when she does turn into a 20-year-old, she still has the mind of like someone in their 70s, and especially with Korea and the way that their formal speech is. She talks very informally to everyone. So if you're not like learning Korean or a Korean native, you may not pick up on it. But like the way she's talking is highly disrespectful. She talks to the old people like her peers and the young people, in the speech that they have. And she does get called out on it a couple of times, but yeah, just wanted to let people know that. So, and it's also just funny to me how the main cast, in a way, like sometimes people say things to her, but they don't harp on her that much about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll say something, but then kind of just play it off. Like, oh, it's okay. That's just how she speaks, which I don't think is really normal.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
it's just her personality.
Yeah, they're just like, it's just the way she is, maybe. But yes, so it does take her a while to realize that, you know, she's not an old woman anymore. I think she got that realization when she was at the sauna place. And then when she leaves, you know, she's like, hey, it's a rebirth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes out shopping, she buys new clothes, she changes her hair, and she even changes her name to Udori. Because at first she was trying to say like her name was Audrey based off of Audrey Hepburn, which I'm guessing is someone she liked back then, because even she got her hair cut. Like, so Udori visits the cafe she works at. Obviously, you could tell she's out of place because it's a 20-year-old and, like, again, a building where everyone's, like, 60 and up. But I think she passed it off about, like, how she feels more comfortable there because she grew up with her grandparents. Something she says to let them stay. Mm-hmm. But they're having I don't know if it's a singing contest or just, like, a singing show. I think it's just a regular, like, talent show. So at first her rival kind of goes up there and like shows off and does the singing and then like hears everyone complimenting her. So she has to, of course, if you're rivals, show them up. And she's like, I will show you what real singing is. So she goes up there and like basically mesmerizes everybody, which valid because she has an amazing voice. She was not lying when she said she was a singer back then.
Mesmerized her own grandson too.
Yes, mesmerized the grandson who came in there asking Mr. Park if they had heard anything about Malsoon because when she got changed into the 20-year-old, she never went back home. So like at this point, she's missing. Mm-hmm. Where was I? Oh yeah, and then at the same time, Sungwoo magically was at the park near the cafe because they're trying to like figure out where to build a stage for the thing that they're planning, to find a venue. So he ends up hearing her sing and they like rush over to the cafe while it's raining, mind you. And again, just like her grandson, he gets mesmerized. He's like, that's the voice I'm looking for. I need to find her. But the grandson gets to her first after the performance when she runs away and asks if she would be the lead singer of his band. And she agrees. So she ends up becoming the lead singer of the band. At first, their music styles didn't really mesh well together, but they came to like a understanding and find a way that clicked. And you even see like the band kind of change their aesthetic as well. They went from like punk rock metal to just like, I don't want to say a normal band, but just like, I don't know what I would call it.
To more calmer themes.
Yeah, I guess with more like a pop band, I will say. They went from a metal rock band to like more of a pop band. Okay. So this is where my rant comes in.
Okay.
So in between kind of like the montage we see of like Dori performing with Jia's band, there's a part because like I said, Sungwoo couldn't find her afterwards. So he's basically either looking for her or someone to like match her voice. So there's a part where he's in the studio and someone, I guess, is auditioning because she's singing the same song that Dori was singing at the cafe. And I'm assuming the man that was standing next to him was her manager because he had brought up while she's singing, he's like, oh, she's great, right? Do you want to know what her nickname is? Now, I had to actually switch from the Korean subtitles to the English subtitles for this because the English subtitles, for some reason, nicknames her Snowball, but he's actually saying Hobong. And the reason he says her nickname is Hobong is because she is white on the outside and black on the inside, and she has that black soul.
I didn't catch that.
You see why I said I was gonna...
Yeah.
Now, quick lesson before we get into it. I don't have much to say, but Korean lesson for you guys. A hobong is actually a thing. It is a steamed bun like usually filled with something, and most commonly it's filled with like that red bean paste type thing. So that's where the analogy comes in, because, you know, white, quote unquote white skin, even though I don't know how much I want to get into that, as Koreans don't technically really have the white skin. They try to emulate the white skin, but they're a lot tanner. Not all of them, but a majority of them are a lot tanner. And then again, with the saying she has a quote unquote black soul, like a black person. And I knew he was talking about a person because when I switched to the Korean subtitles, he even says the word Hugin, which is actually the word for a black person. So there's any black people that listen to this, if you ever go to Korea, it's not a slur. I promise. I know what the slur is for black people. I'm not going to say it. But if you just hear a Korean person talk around you and they say the word Hugin, they'll probably talk about you, or they're talking about you, just letting you know, like, hey, there's a black person. I mean, do you have any thoughts before I say anything? Or
it's just like they can't go through one movie without some sort of mention of something related to black culture. It's like, why?
If anyone, I don't care who I make mad when I say this, if anyone tries to tell you that Korean music, besides traditional music and trap music, is not based off black culture, again, they are lying. And if you believe it, I'm also just going to assume you're racist. I am. Because we all know that. We have to go through a fight for some odd reason every day when it comes to K-pop of like reminding you guys, hey, this is based off of not only black culture, but African-American culture. And now they're starting to, you know, use African music. I say that because everyone just likes to say Afrobeats, but that I have a problem with that, because Afrobeats is not all of the continent Africa, because people still like to pretend Africa is a country and not a continent, with multiple countries within the continent that has their own languages and cultures within themselves. That also goes to the music. I believe, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, Afrobeats is from Nigeria only. So it's like sometimes they'll use beats that's not really Afro beats. Like there was an instance recently with LE SSERAFIM's comeback, and one song that people were, I understand, saying that it was Afro beats and they're trying to emulate Afro beats, even though I was seeing people say it's not Afro beats, it's actually something else, because they were trying to compare it to Tyla's song that blew up, Water. And saying it was based off that, even though I've listened to it, they don't sound anything alike. If anything, their song that's called Smart sounds more like Doja Cat's Woman. Okay. But anyway, because Tyla is from South Africa, and of course the music and the style of music is not Afrobeats. It's a different terminology. I forgot the ones that I was seeing online, but it's just like, that's what I mean. It's upsetting to see them always loop us into one, basically.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then just the whole, it goes into my, I'm trying not to be on this too long because we still have to talk about the movie, but it just also goes to my struggle. It's like being emulated so much, but still being hated, because as we see, especially with a lot of events going on, like the things in the war in like Sudan, how anti-blackness is a global issue. Okay? Just want to remind y'all, it's a global issue. Yeah, so I was just like, I saw it and I had to take a pause. I was like, what did he just say?
Literally, it's like, why can't they just...
I don't know. And then I have to remember, it's like, well, not remember. I was telling myself, okay, this was back in 2014, even though that's still way too early to be doing all this. But when I look at 2024 now, which is a 10 years different, I'm like, did things really actually change?
Yeah.
They've gotten a little bit better because, again, they're trying to market globally now. So if they want a more global audience, I'm sorry, you can't exclude us out. Which I can't tell if they're trying to do or not. Sometimes I feel like they are. That's a whole nother podcast. But it's just like, oh God. I also blame JYP because his Instagram handle is Asian Soul JYP. So I'll try to blame that man for anything. That's like, and then I'll move on. I remember seeing a really old clip of Jessie, who I think is on a break now. But before she became a rapper, she was trying to be a singer, and she's actually a really good singer. But like, I don't know if she was auditioning for JYP's company, but they're obviously in the studio and she's singing. And if you also don't know about JYP, he actually has like studios named off of Black people. So that's already one thing. But he had said she either sounds like, I don't remember which singer he said, but he said she either sounded like Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, or Lauryn Hill. One of those three. And I was just like, okay, no, stop. You can just praise her for being a good singer. Anyway, yeah, that's my little thing. Let me take a water real quick because now I'm heated. I was just I can't get away from it.
It is frustrating though.
It is. And before people, again, try to come after me and be like, why am I complaining about this and still watching it? I've said this multiple times. I'll sound like a broken record. Again, anti-Blackness is a global issue. This is more of like an outside of media thing that needs to be changed, and just like media itself from all different cultures is going to take a very long time. If I stop watching everything that has an inkling of anti-Blackness, I might as well live in a cave. Which is sad for me to say, but that is just my reality in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I can't point out when something is wrong, and hopefully saying something can start a change. It may not, but still. Just wanted to bring that up. Okay, I'm done. I promise. But yeah. Whew. So, where was I? So like I said, we've just been pretty much watching Udori, sing with the band, and then Sungwoo finally like finds her. I think they ended up riding the same like subway together, and he tries to like not confront her, but be like, I've been looking for you. And of course, she didn't really notice him the whole time. So like he's gonna come off as like a creepy man. And then like it's funny because like there's a part where like he accidentally grabs her and slightly pulls her shirt down, and then thankfully, the police were around, so she ends up getting him arrested. But then later on, when the band actually is auditioning for the show, she sees him again and realizes, oh, you weren't lying. You actually are a musical, producer, and you were telling the truth. Which, I mean, I don't blame her, though, for not believing him. And then he actually does decide to not only put them in the show, but like actually highlight them and have them as Rookie of the Month during that show.
Mind you, she's also just as feisty as a 20-year-old as she was as like a 74-year-old. So
pretty much, it's just like that's just her personality. So whether she was 70 or 20, I'm sure she was like that when she was younger as well. Just very strong-headed, which is nothing wrong with that. It also just shows, because she's like that, her survival skills in a sense, right? Because she probably wouldn't have made it too far if she wasn't like that. So at the same time, all that was happening, Hyunchul and Mr. Park actually went to the police station, and they're all under the assumption that Uma-soon may have been kidnapped because they caught on the CCTV when Dori was withdrawing money from her account. But they couldn't really see her, but all they saw was like an umbrella. And immediately Mr. Park like noticed that umbrella as like, oh, it's Dori because she is renting out a room at whatever place he owns. I'm not sure what that would be called. I don't know what those are considered. But he recognized her just off the umbrella. And then I think there was a point where she had left and he went into the room and like saw Uma-soon's belongings, like her dentures, her clothing, and her shoes, because she always wore like shoes were like they're literally falling apart. So then when she comes back home from the audition, he basically confronts her and they get into a scuffle. He was trying to like, I guess, catch her, and that didn't work out because, she's in a younger body. So she's the one that ended up like tying him down to stuff and tells him that she is Uma-soon, and he believes her.
Which I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh.
I wasn't, because I didn't mention this earlier, but you can obviously tell when you're watching the movie that Mr. Park has always admired her, whether it's like romantic admiration or just admire her in general. So if you admire someone like that and you miss them because they suddenly disappear,
you will recognize them.
Yeah. Plus, there was a flashback that he had of like recognizing her younger self. So I think it's easier because, like I said, they did grow up around each other. So like he knew what she looked like when she was younger.
Okay. His daughter didn't like her one bit, though.
Oh, no, not at all. So, and obviously she didn't know what she looked like when she was younger.
Yeah.
So she kind of thought it was like a younger woman trying to take advantage of her father, who's old and widowed as well.
Yeah.
So then like after that, Mr. Park also, tries his best kind of to impress Uma-sun or like Udori. And like to prove his youth as well, because we kind of see him do things like exercise. He buys like younger clothes, and then like he buys a motorcycle and goes and like picks her up at the bus station where like she kind of gets made fun of a little bit. But that scene is important because it'll come up a little bit later. But when he picks her up in the motorcycle, he ends up taking her to the performance. And so while they're performing, we actually get flashbacks of Uma-sun's, like her actual life. I am assuming probably because of her age too, everything that happened to her, it looked like during like World War II or even like the Korean War. I mean, I know they kind of happen right after the other. So, but kind of what we were talking about of why she's so protective of her son, because her husband had left to go work in Germany for mining or something while she was pregnant with her son. And then we see she gets the letter that, he was killed off. So she's been widowed. I think we do see glimpses of like her trying to like feed her son and he's just not taking it. But he's also crying a lot because he's sick. They're very poor. So the song that she's singing kind of makes her reminisce about that and gets very emotional. But they did an amazing job and became very loved. So afterwards, they celebrate and they all go to a water park. And at the water park, there's actually a big discovery that was made. So, I mean, at first, Song-woo kind of is flirting with Dori. I actually don't know how old he's supposed to be in this show.
I think he's supposed to be like 20, like in his 20s or early
in his 20s. I didn't know 20s or 30s.
Talking about the grandson, right?
No, I'm talking about the producer, Song-woo.
Oh, yeah, 30s, I believe.
30s, okay. Yeah. I mean, he tries to talk to Dori, and it obviously flirts a little, like, I want to get to know you more, learn about you, things of that nature. But the big thing that happens is she ends up, like, cutting her foot. I don't remember how she cuts her foot, but she cuts it, and she's starting to bleed a little bit. And where the cut actually is, the skin around it actually starts, like, wrinkling into, like, older age. So when they go back home and Mr. Park kind of like makes another wound on her foot, we learn that the spell is actually broken when she bleeds, which I think is an interesting twist. Because I was wondering, I'm like, okay, is this not reversible? Does she never go back to normal? But if she bleeds, she'll turn back into an old woman. And then also during that whole scene, too, when they find that revelation, I think he accidentally trips. So then Mr. Park's daughter comes into the room. And again, like I said, she thinks Dori is trying to seduce him, take advantage of him. So she kicks him out. And then also goes into this whole thing about like why she's never married, to like take care of her father and all that, which I think was interesting. So after she leaves Mr. Park's place, she ends up actually going over to Sung-woo's to stay the night because she needs a place to stay. And nothing really happens. I mean, they drink and they chat. She asks him a few questions like why he's single, but nothing really goes anywhere between them. And he also gets way too drunk for anything to happen.
Did she go back to her house yet at this point as a young woman? Not yet? Okay.
She did go back one night to like have dinner with them as Dori to introduce herself as like the lead singer. I think it happened before this. I might have skipped that for time reasons.
Got it.
But yeah, there is a point she does go back to the house. Because I think she also tries to. She gets something from the house. I'm assuming it's something like with more money.
Or like, yeah, her banks, like her checkbooks.
Like her bank, statement. So I think all this happened afterwards. Because there was a point where like her son comes in and she like greets him. But then everyone's like, this is weird. Why are you greeting my son? We don't know who you are. Right. And then she tries to backpedal. And then there's also a point before he even comes home where they're eating and she like kind of makes a critique about the food. And I feel like the mother had like flashbacks.
Right.
Like she was traumatized the way she was staring at her. Like, who is this girl telling me how to cook in my own home? So I thought she was going to figure it out. Like, that's the grandma, but she didn't. So, where's she next? Okay, so then Mr. Park and Dodie are at a park. Not randomly, but I forgot what happened for them to just like hang out at the park. And I don't know who brings it up, but I think Dodie actually brings up Oakjaw and like asking how she's been. And then that's when Mr. Park tells her that she's actually in the hospital due to a stroke. And like she was trying to figure out why. But obviously, you know, they're just at the age where these things happen. So I kind of feel like that shook her up in a way, but I wasn't sure like how it shook her up or if it like woke anything up inside of her. But yeah, and then afterwards she kind of goes on I call it a date, not date with Sungwoo, because that's where obviously we all know that like he has a crush on her. I don't know if he asked her out, but or said like he was interested in her, but then she brings up the age difference, mostly talking about herself, but then like he thinks he's talking about him. So that's why I was wondering like what the age difference was technically between them. But afterwards he drops her off at the hospital so she can go visit Oakjaw. And then sadly we'd learned that she didn't survive the stroke and she passed away. So I thought that part was pretty sad. And then she leaves coffee, specifically like an American or a black coffee at her. I don't know what to call it. They do funerals different than here in America. So, but like at her picture, she leaves a coffee because there was like a joke at the beginning where she was calling Americanos American coffee. So kind of like to honor her, which I thought was sweet.
Yeah.
But then we get up to the big performance that we were all waiting for, the 2013 summer concert where Bon Ji-ha, the band, is performing. And Ji-ha is actually running late. He's stuck in traffic in a taxi. So he decides try to make it on time to get out of the cab and take one of those like public bikes that they have. And we think he's doing great. He is dodging all the people. He is dodging all the traffic. And then all of a sudden he goes into like this alley and then gets hit by a truck. I was like, we're doing so good. He didn't get hit by a truck. I was tricked.
Of all places, too.
Of all places. I was like, I'm a little traumatized from all these white trucks.
Right.
I'm gonna just say it. Like, if I ever get a chance to go visit Korea and I see those trucks, I'm just a little terrified.
Yeah.
You will not catch me crossing the street that's not on an actual crosswalk. That is one thing for sure. I've watched too many dramas where they be getting hit with cars. But they do end up still performing without him after they find out he's in the hospital. And Dodie says it's kind of like a way to honor him because it is not only his band, but his song. And they worked so hard to get there in the first place. So they do end up performing before they visit him in the hospital. And even during the performance, you can kind of tell the movie's like winding down because it's showing flashbacks of like her time of like quote unquote rebirth and kind of like a farewell song in a sense. So then when they get to the hospital, apparently the hospital's been so busy. One of the surgeons comes out and asks like if there's anyone that can volunteer for a blood transfusion, specifically someone with a rare blood type, Rh-AB negative, because they've had so many surgeries that day that they're running low on blood and because the situation's so dire, they probably won't have enough time to like get the blood from another hospital. And of course, who in the family has the same blood type as Gia, the grandmother?
Of course.
Of course she does. So they're like, oh, grandma has a blood type, but like, we don't know where she is. And then here comes Dodie like, oh, I actually also have that rare blood type. I will volunteer to donate the blood to him, knowing that she is going to turn back into her old self.
At this point, the son put it together, right? That she was his mom.
Yeah, so there was a point where I think Mr. Park kind of tried to convince her not to do it, but, she not brushed him off, but did it anyway. And then, like you said, the son was putting the pieces together, and I think their first performance, he kind of it was making more sense to him. But he realizes that Dori this whole time was his mother. And I thought it was interesting that like I was actually trying to convince her to run away and like go relive your life. Like you were given a second chance to like start over, be young. He was even telling her like, go meet a nice guy. Don't get into any too much trouble. Like this is my son and my family. So like how you took care of me, it's my job to take care of them.
Yeah.
And she was basically like reassuring him that, you know, this is also her family. So like, I don't know if it's like her duty, but like she loves them enough to like sacrifice her living a good life, and like reassuring him that even though times were tough, like she doesn't regret anything. Mm-hmm. She doesn't regret having him or going through what she went through, even if it was hard for her, to make sure that he had the life that he has now. So I thought that was very sweet. It was very touching. I almost did kind of cry a little bit. So, Aww. And then, so, you know, she has the blood transfusion, which I'm just going to say this now. I was actually kind of shocked, like, during it, no one, like, there wasn't a scene of, like, oh, we had a young girl come in for a blood transfusion and all of a sudden she turns into an old woman. Right. Like, no one questioned that. We didn't have, like, movie a scene where people were freaking out. It's fine. This is a plot hole I'll accept.
Yeah.
For once. So then after that, we jump to a year later where Uma-sun is back to her normal self. And not only that, she's in the audience with her son and his wife cheering on Jiha's band and their new singer, Hana. So his sister actually becomes the new lead singer for the band because earlier on at the first performance when they were watching on the TV, she kind of makes a joke like, wow, Dori's really good. What if I become a singer? And then like her mother brushes her off, but then it's kind of like, oh, I said I was going to become a singer. Now I'm an actual singer. Yeah. Look at me now. And she's not actually bad. So apparently that family is just very musically talented.
Right.
So not only that, it seems like the relationship between her and Aja has gotten significantly better because when they're in the bathroom, they're like making jokes or laughing. So it seems like obviously she had some growth and actually respects her and treats her not only like another human being, but like as the mother of her grandchildren. Yeah. So, and then after the performance, we do kind of see a point where she's looking at Sungwoo of kind of like one last time of like, you know, what could have happened if I had stayed young. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he sees her, but he doesn't recognize her old age. But then there's a part where she like turns to walk away and he had given her a beret when he dropped her off at the hospital that she still has in her hair. I don't know if he noticed it or not. He obviously didn't really have a reaction. But yeah. So.
I mean, what could he have done? It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean.
He would have just been confused if anything.
Pretty much. So it's just kind of like, what if? I'm also surprised no one really questioned what happened to Dori, but maybe that's just something we're missing. Like maybe they made up an excuse of like where she went.
Right.
And things of that nature. So we basically boil it down to the ending scene where the cycle repeats itself, where Mr. Park goes out, he's riding his motorcycle, and he actually comes across the photo shop. So when he goes back to the same bus station to pick up Uma-sun in her, you know, original form of a 74-year-old woman, he takes off his helmet and we see a new, younger 20-something-year-old Mr. Park.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's flaunting over him, saying how handsome he is. And, you know, kind of like the scene when he was taking her to the music show, they ride off together. Now he is in a younger body and she is the older one. But they drive off, and that's how the movie ends.
Nice.
Yay!
Nice, sweet ending.
It was cute. So any thoughts, questions, concerns about the movie? Your overall feelings?
I thought it was a cute movie.
It was a cute movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all I thought. I was like, it's cute. It's also interesting. It's also interesting, too, because, like, you kind of get to see that time period because she did age back, like, 50 years. Mm-hmm. So the language and everything. And I think they did a pretty decent job, too, to kind of like reflect that in her character.
Yeah.
So it was good. I was kind of surprised, like, with the grandson, because he was like always flirting with her. I was like, please don't let this get awkward.
I know. And she cut it off real quick, too, because there's a point where he actually confesses and she's like, you're not my type.
Yeah.
And thankfully he accepted it. He wasn't like those creepy shows I have seen where they keep pursuing them.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, I'm your family. But no one knew that except for Mr. Park and then her actual son later on. Mm-hmm. But it was funny in that part. So
yeah. But overall it was nice though. It's like a good glimpse of old age, I guess, like the kind of regrets and stuff that they have. They don't really pursue what they want to do. So it was nice.
Yeah, it's one of those movies of like, age is something we all kind of think about and not, I don't want to say we're scared of, but I know society teaches us a lot about like being scared of like getting older. And I think this movie did a really good job of like, even though she did have a chance to go back and redo things, she didn't regret her life, even though it was hard for her, because it's not like she had an easy life the first time. Mm-hmm. But if she didn't go through all of that, she wouldn't have the family that she has now. Right. So, and I think it was also just a wake-up call for her and herself and her attitude of how she was treating people, because she was kind of still in that mindset of like, because she was so regretful of how her life was and how she felt like her life was ruined, she didn't see the beauty of what it led up to, like of her son being not only alive and healthy, but with a good family, a nice house, a decent job. And she did brag about that, but I don't think she really saw it until she became younger.
She understood it, yeah.
And then it was also like growth for the grandson, at least. I feel like. And
the granddaughter, too. The granddaughter didn't really like her. You could tell.
Yeah.
Well, it was growth for everybody.
It was growth for everybody. I think it did a good job with that of showing, like, don't be afraid of aging. Don't look back too much, like, on your life, even if you're not really happy for it. But if you, like, keep moving forward in the best way you can. Again, I understand there's a lot of societal things that could stop people sometimes, but just trying the best that you can, it could have a good outcome.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
And like, the good classic, like following your dreams and all that.
Right.
So, just that little stuff like.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the reasons why she didn't hesitate to go back is because she was able to sing that one last time.
Yeah.
Like she originally wanted to. So, yeah. Overall, I would give this like a 8.5, I think.
I think I'll give it the same. Overall, it was a really decent movie. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed watching it because, sometimes I have to watch these things twice, especially if I'm in the lead. Like, I watched it the first time, and then the second time is when I actually take my notes because it's just easier for me to, since I've already seen it, I can, while I'm watching it, collect the notes I want to say. And then if there's anything I had missed the first time, I can catch it. But yeah, I did truly enjoy this movie. It was cute. It's one of the movies I like where like it can teach you a lesson without like
shoving it down your throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall it was great. So especially for it being an almost 10-year-old movie, I just came to the realize when I said that earlier because this movie came out in 2014. It is 2024. Yep. I feel old. Speaking of age, I was 17 back then. I am about to be 27 soon.
Oh, wow.
That age doesn't feel real. It's also funny now that I say that, I had mentioned earlier in this podcast how I'm going back and listening to old episodes to try to put on our social media. And that's how old you were when we started this.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that crazy? Speaking of age.
I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, we've been doing this podcast for a bit.
I know.
Yeah.
And we've had our ups and downs, stopped a couple times, but we're still going.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us, Nafis.
I am too.
Yeah. But anything else we want to say about this movie? I will actually recommend this movie if you guys haven't already seen it. And hopefully you did see it and enjoy it just as much as us. But if you found plot holes or things you didn't like, let us know. We always shout out the email at the end.
Right.
Let us know.
All right. Is that it? Is that all you had to say?
Yeah, I think I'm done. How about you?
All right. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode as we reviewed Miss Granny. If you have any feedback, any comments, anything you would like us to cover, You can always reach us at our Instagram and we still have our TikTok, right?
Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter/X. I say both. I still want to say Twitter though.
At I Was Thinking Pod.
Yes.
And also our email, which is iwasthinkingpod@gmail.com. So please be sure to give us a 5-star rating or whatever the highest rating is. And we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.